Hello, welcome back to the Leukopak Lady. In the previous episodes of this season, I talked about what makes CSM data IND enabling. For the next few episodes, I'll be talking about the donor. And I know I do that all the time in this series, but this will be in the context of the IND application. In allogeneic cell therapies, the donor is more than a source of cells. They're an essential component of the starting material rationale. So what do developers need to define and defend about donor selection in their IND? When I talk about donor selection in allotherapies, I'm typically referring to three different things, each with a place in the conversation. These are donor eligibility, donor suitability, and donor qualification. First, donor eligibility. Donor eligibility is exclusively focused on the safety of the cell therapy product recipient. Its determination is required by the FDA, outlined in 21 CFR 1271C. It's also modeled after the blood donor eligibility requirements found in 21 CFR 630. The donor must be appropriately assessed by screening and testing for relevant communicable diseases to demonstrate that they have reduced risk of transmitting infection to the recipient. 21 CFR 1271C outlines the screening and testing criteria, which includes infectious agents like HIV, HBV, HCV, HTLV, syphilis, and others. The IND must show that donor eligibility determination is being done in accordance with 1271C. Second, donor suitability. Donor suitability is traditionally an assessment mandated by the FDA to the blood industry. As defined in 21 CFR 630, donor suitability is focused on the safety of the donor. Is it safe for this donor to donate this blood product today? Asking questions such as, are you feeling well and healthy today? Measuring vital signs and assessing overall health history helps the collector know whether it's safe for the donor to undergo the collection. The cell therapy industry has adopted this assessment, also framed around donor safety during the cell therapy product collection process. The AABB standards for cell therapy services and FACT JC Hematopoietic Cellular Therapy standards outline donor suitability criteria to include ability to tolerate the collection procedure. Suitability assessments are left up to the examining medical professionals to determine, but for cell therapy, these typically include assigned informed consent, pregnancy testing, vital sign measurement, health assessment, and determining if there's adequate venous access for the procedure. It also may include an assessment of the donor's ability to tolerate the anticoagulant, anesthesia, or other medicines involved in the collection process. In the IND application, FDA will want to know how donor suitability is being determined, how it's documented, and who's responsible for making the determination. Third is donor qualification. Donor qualification is defined however the developer wants. It's program-specific rationale to include or exclude a donor from the collection and thus the manufacturing process of the therapy. This is where the developer connects donor selection to the needs of the therapy. Questions the developer must answer early are, what makes a good donor for our therapy? Are there health or lifestyle criteria we can use to assess whether a donor's cells will perform well in manufacturing or function well as a therapy? These may include obesity, smoking, diet, sleep habits, or alcohol consumption. Are there latent viruses in the donor that, if they become reactivated, may endanger the recipient of the therapy? These may include cytomegalovirus, human herpes virus, Epstein-Barr virus, and herpes simplex virus. Does the donor have enough of the right cell population with the right phenotypes? This may be CD4-CD8 ratios, effector versus central memory cells, or activation versus exhaustion markers. How well do the donor cells perform in assays to assess proliferation, virus uptake, killing functions, and overall cell vitality? The answers to these questions lead to the answers to important questions for the IND application. Why this donor population? Why these inclusion or exclusion criteria? Why this age range or health profile? Why are these characteristics meaningful for the therapy manufacturing and therapeutic efficacy? These are going to be different for every program, and the FDA expects developers to define these qualification criteria as part of their IND application. If they aren't fully defined in the IND, there should be a plan included for how they will be assessed and defined. And as therapies become more differentiated, the FDA may ask developers to address more sophisticated aspects of therapy manufacturing and efficacy by addressing in-depth questions about donor populations. For example, does donor-to-donor variability affect expansion or product quality? What donor characteristics are associated with better or worse manufacturing outcomes, therapeutic outcomes? Does donor collection frequency affect outcomes? And what changes in donor lifestyle or health history affect outcomes? So when it comes to donors and the IND, remember, donor eligibility and suitability are necessary and required, but they aren't the only things developers need to prove are being done. Developers need a strong awareness of the donor qualification criteria that makes their therapy work. Join me for the next episode where I address a prominent question that gets asked about donors as developers are preparing their IND application. Do I have to test for that? I'll go over how to avoid unnecessary or unsupported donor criteria in your IND application and why this is so important. See you then.